Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sally and this is Secret Life of a Seamstress, my channel where I talk all about sewing, knitting and craft. I hope you're all doing really well. I've just dashed back from the school run to record early this morning because I have to go to the dentist later, which I'm not looking forward to. But it's so dark and cold and rainy. I feel as though I'm filming this video in the middle of the night, so I've got all the lights on at the moment. And I just hope the lighting will be okay. It's definitely January here in the UK. Yeah, very dark and damp and horrible, and it's not quite the same when you've not got Christmas around the corner anymore, so I'm really looking forward to spring now. So today's video is going to be one of my random kind of crafty catch-up type videos. I've got quite a lot to share from Christmas time, a couple of Christmas presents to show you, a finished knitting project, a new knitting project that I've started, some sewing plans and a new hobby as well. So I thought I'd just kind of combine them all together in one little catch-up video. Oh, and I've also got some reading to share with you as well. I know some of you are quite interested in reading too, so I'll pop in a little reading update at the end of the video as well if you're interested in that. But before I get started chatting about all of my crafty updates, I just wanted to give you a quick update on how I'm getting on with my Readly app. So I shared back in the autumn time that I was trying out a free subscription of the Readly app. So if you've not heard of the Readly app before, there are literally thousands of magazines and newspapers available for you to read at any time. There are sewing and craft magazines, knitting magazines, sport magazines. So for us as a family, I tend to read the lifestyle magazines quite a lot, also the craft magazines of course, and also the homes and interiors type magazines. I love looking at those as well. My husband loves the golf magazines because he's really into golf, and my daughter really enjoys reading the animal and nature type magazines. So yeah, it's really been good for us as a whole family. Just recently, with it being New Year and everything, I've been thinking a little bit about the small changes that I'd like to make in my own life, not necessarily New Year's resolutions. I wouldn't say I really make New Year's resolutions because I feel as though they're a little bit unattainable sometimes and they put a lot of pressure on you, but something about this time of year does make me think about little changes that I'd like to make in my own life to hopefully make things a little bit better. And I've been using my Readly app to help me with a few ideas about how I can make those changes in my life. So some of the magazines that I enjoy reading are Good Housekeeping. I love this one because it's really aimed at women and women around my age. And it gives you really good ideas of how you can just make little changes in your life to be a little bit more healthier. So I know that I need to be better at getting a good night's sleep. I also need to be better at drinking water and probably eating a bit more healthily, and taking my vitamins as well. That's something that I really need to do. So I've been reading Good Housekeeping quite a lot recently because they are really good at giving you ideas about how to change things like that in your own life just to make yourself a little bit more healthy. So as well as reading these articles in my favourite magazines, I've also been bookmarking things in those magazines as well that I can just save and look back at when I want to remember the kind of ideas that I want to put in place in my own life and little changes that I can make. I've also been saving some lovely healthy recipes as well that we can hopefully refer back to and use when we're a little bit in need of inspiration for dinner time as well. Healthy things that are going to help us to have a good start to the new year. Also, with it being the new year, I've been thinking about new hobbies and skills that I'd like to learn, and I've been thinking for a while now that I need something in my life that isn't necessarily about sewing or knitting. So I've been experimenting actually with a new hobby which I've taken up with my daughter, which has been really nice. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later and show you how I'm getting on with it. And that is bullet journaling. So myself and my daughter have been dipping in and out of bullet journaling over the Christmas holidays, and it's been really nice to do it together. And what I love about the Readly app as well is that not only can you search for your favourite magazines, but if you type in a topic that you're interested in, for example, I recently just typed in bullet journaling and it brought up all of the magazines where bullet journaling was referenced, and I found that really helpful because I wasn't aware of any kind of lettering or bullet journal magazines. But yeah, just typing in that topic brought up a couple of articles that we were able to look at and get inspiration from. Another hobby that I really want to work on this year, and this I've kind of dipped in and out of over the last few years, is photography. So I'm also going to be using the Readly app to read through some photography magazines as well and give me some ideas and tutorials and inspiration for that. So if you'd like to try the Readly app for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description of this video where you can sign up for a 2-month free trial subscription. So the Readly app is really flexible. You can cancel it at any time. So if you want to try out your 2 months for free and then you decide it's not for you, you can literally cancel and you won't need to pay a penny. I used to buy tons and tons of magazines and just flip through them really, not necessarily read everything, and then I would have piles of magazines laying around the house. So environmentally, the Readly app is really good as well because it saves all of that paper and you can just dip in and out of your favourite magazines, pick out your favourite articles and read them, and you don't need to buy the whole magazine. So as I say, I will leave that link in the description of the video below, so if you fancy checking them out you can pop over and do so. So with all that said, let's get into my crafty items I have to share with you. So before I get started again, I'll just share with you quickly what I'm wearing. So as I mentioned, it is a very chilly, horrible day here today. So what I wanted to reach for this morning was something really warm and cozy. And I put on my toaster sweater, this one in the lovely fleecy fleeceback sweatshirt fabric in this ecru colour. I love this toaster sweater and it's always what I reach for if I want something really cosy and warm. I keep thinking I need to make another one of these sweaters because they're really good, especially for winter weather like this, but also I find for holidays in the summertime when you're out on the beach and it gets chilly in the evening and everything. So yeah, love this toaster. So I think I'm going to start with knitting today because I've got quite a bit of knitting to talk about actually, but I will move on to sewing shortly. So I think in my last video before Christmas, I literally just started this hat that I wanted to knit over Christmas time. I think I'd just cast it on. But over Christmas, I managed to finish this hat, which I absolutely love and I'm actually really pleased with. So this pattern was from this Mode at Rowan book, which I picked up from John Lewis for around £2. It was a real cheapie, but I love it because it has some really nice hat patterns in. So the hat that I've knit here is the Josie beanie hat. And it's a really simple cable knit beanie hat with a pom-pom on the top, and it's knit in Kid Classic yarn. So since this was just a hat, I decided to invest in the proper Rowan yarn so that I could get the overall proper hat. So I went for this colour. I can't actually remember the shade of this, but I will link it down below. It's a kind of beige colour. So I knitted it according to the instructions, but I found the sizing of this really difficult to get right. So I cast on the amount of stitches that it said in the book, did a tension, a swatch and everything, and it should have come up okay. But when I cast on the amount of stitches it said in the book here, the hat came up absolutely huge. And it was a bit of a trial and error thing to try and get the sizing right, because in the end I'd already tried to reduce the needle size and that didn't help, and I couldn't go any lower in my needle size because it would have just not suited the yarn. So in the end I needed to reduce the amount of stitches that I had on the needle, which also meant recalculating the cable pattern. So a simple hat project turned out to be a little bit of a task in the end, but once I'd kind of resized the amount of stitches I needed and worked out that it would be okay for the cable, it all turned out okay. And this hat does fit, but I will say again that like with my daughter's hat, I could have done with a slight bit more length on it. So if I ever knit one of these hats again, I'm definitely going to add a little bit of length. I mean, it's fine, but I think I would have just liked maybe another centimetre or two just to make it that little bit longer. But I really like how this turned out. The other weird thing that happened with this actually is that the pattern suggests that you need 2 balls of the Kid Classic yarn, and I got this knit in under 1 ball of yarn, so I don't quite know how that happened either. But never mind, I ended up with a whole ball and a half of yarn left over, so I managed to knit something else, which I'll share in a minute. But yeah, I really like how this has turned out. I still need to block it, and I think I am actually going to block it because I think that will make the cable sit really nicely. And I just finished the hat off with this lovely fluffy pom-pom, which I got from Black Sheep Yarns. I highly recommend these pom-poms. They're a really good size and they're really fluffy as well. And they're only around £2.50 each, so I thought that was a real bargain. And then since I had a whole ball and a half left over, I decided to make some matching hand warmers or wrist warmers. So one of them is sewn up. here. It looks really funny like this. It's a really skinny little tube. I do want to block this one as well. And one of them I've left unseamed at the moment because I want to block it flat. And also I just wanted to show you the pattern before I sewed it up as well. So this is a really simple wrist warmer pattern which I made up myself. It's just a rectangle, as you can see. So you basically just knit a rectangle and then you seam it up at the side, leaving a gap for your thumb. And then they just go on like this. So I needed to work out with this rectangle exactly where my cables were going to sit, because knitting it as a rectangle, which you're then going to fold in half, I wanted the cable to sit in the middle of my hand. So it did take a little bit of trial and error again just to work out exactly how many stitches I needed to knit and where the cable was going to go, and of course where my thumb was going to poke out as well. So that was fun. So as I say, I'm going to block this one flat to let the cables sit nicely, and then I'm going to sew that one up as well. And then I've got a nice hat and wrist warmer set, which I wasn't expecting, but it's a kind of happy accident. And even after making the wrist warmers as well, I still have this much yarn left over. So I'm not quite sure what happened there with the recommended yarn amount. But never mind, it was really nice to try out this Rowan yarn actually. It's quite woolly, so it does feel like wool, and as I said before, I'm just hoping it's not going to be itchy to wear. So I've actually started a new knitting project now for the new year, and over Christmas again I ordered a load of yarn and I went for the Drops Air yarn. So this is quite a chunky yarn. I think it's around an Aran weight actually. It's supposed to be knit up on 6mm needles, so not quite chunky but not double knitting either. And I'd heard a lot about how lovely this yarn was, and I bought a load initially because I wanted to make a Whitmore cardigan again. And I thought I would use this yarn to do it in. So over Christmas time I experimented again with just trying out this yarn and how I would work it to be knit as a Whitmore cardigan, which should use a worsted weight yarn, which is like a double knit, on 4mm needles. And in the end I got very confused about how I was going to resize it and whether the cardigan would fit me properly and whether or not it was worth the experiment and the possible wasted yarn to do that, and I decided it wasn't. And the other thing that I thought with this really fluffy yarn actually is whether or not the lace would actually show up enough for it to be worth all of the work knitting in this yarn, if that makes sense, because it would have been pretty fluffy and the lace wouldn't necessarily have been shown to its best. So in the end anyway, I decided to abandon my Whitmore cardigan to this yarn and start something else. And you'll know if you've followed me for a while that one of my aims for around 2 years has been to knit a sweater in the round, and I've been putting it off and putting it off because I'm scared of doing it. So I decided that this year needed to be the year that I knit a sweater in the round. And I just needed to get on with it in January rather than keep putting it off. I don't know what it is, I've just got a block in my head about doing this. So one of the patterns that caught my eye as a possible really easy sweater to knit in the round for a beginner like me was the Petite Knit Novice sweater. So I knit the Novice cardigan as my first top-down cardigan, and I knew that the instructions in the Petite Knit patterns are brilliant and they're written for beginners. There's a level on all of their patterns actually to say what knitting level you should be if you're going to try this one. And this was one of their more basic ones. So I needed to order a couple of circular needles so that I could give this pattern a go. So I ordered those from Love Crafts and I've actually finally started it. So here's where I am with the sweater so far. Looks really funny like this. So I've knit the neck, the collar, and I've started the yoke. I'm just on the increases for the yoke now. So yeah, it's coming together really nicely and I'm really enjoying it. It isn't half as scary as I thought it would be knitting in the round. In fact, it's quite easy. And I don't know what was putting me off about it. I think part of it for me really was getting my head around all the different needle sizes that you need and the like the wire or the circular needle length you need for each part, because obviously when you're knitting the collar part you need quite a small circular needle and then you need to change as your yoke or your body part gets bigger. So just making sure that I ordered the correct needles rather than trying to faff around using what I've already got, which wasn't right. made the whole process so much easier. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that so far, and it's just nice to sit and knit because it is just stocking stitch, and stocking stitch when you're knitting in the round is just knit stitch, which is weird. So rather than doing one row knit and one row purl, you're constantly knitting, so it's really easy to just sit and knit, and then I've got my little marker here to tell me when I get to the beginning of the round. So yeah, enjoying that one, and so pleased to have finally given it a go. I will keep you updated with how I get on with that one. So onto a sewing plan that I have coming up over Christmas as well. I decided to order some lovely cozy fabric from Minerva. So over Christmas time, Minerva had one of their 25% off sales on knit fabrics. So if you were a Craft Club member, you would save 25% on a wide range of their knit fabrics. And one of those fabrics was this Mind the Maker sweater fabric, which I've had my eye on for quite some time. You can see I've got loads of it here. And yeah, I invested in that because 25% is quite a big discount on Mind the Maker fabrics because, as you'll know, they're more of a pricey brand. But I do love Mind the Maker, and I love the ethical side to their fabric production as well. So I always like to have a couple of Mind the Maker and more pricey fabrics in my basket saved, so that when Minerva do run these discounted sales, I can then buy what I want at a heavily discounted price. So it's really worthwhile, I think, being a Craft Club member. Anyway, I went for this colour. It comes in a few different colours. I think this comes in blue, grape, mustard, black and green. I went for the green because I've been really enjoying this green colour lately, and yeah, I've got quite a lot of it, as you can see. And with this, I'm actually going to be making something really exciting for the Pattern Pages magazine. So I've been writing for the Pattern Pages magazine blog for quite some time now, and I really enjoy working with them. They've recently launched a PDF pattern boutique. So I'm going to be making up one of their PDF patterns. It's a really cozy set, so I'm not going to say what it is yet, but it's perfect for January, and I think it will work really nicely in this lovely cozy fabric, and I really want to get this made up because I can't wait to wear it. It will be the perfect January set, I think. So that's going to be coming soon, and I might actually record that as a sew along or a sewing day in my life or something like that, because I think a lot of you will really like this pattern. So yeah, that was my only fabric purchase over Christmas actually. I was really good, and I didn't look at any of the fabric sales over Christmas because something that I really want to do, going along with my sort of decluttering and trying to be a bit more minimal, is to use up my fabric stash. And I know that I've already got plans for some of my fabric that I need to get on and get made before I buy any more fabric. I will have a couple of projects that I need to make and write up for other people, which will mean more fabric coming in. But in terms of actually buying fabric for my own fabric stash, I'm going to try and use up what I've got. So that's my lovely cozy fabric purchase. Just wanted to quickly share as well a couple of things that I got for Christmas that I thought might be interesting. One of the things I got was this roll and press. It's by Clover, and this is a seam press roller. So recently I've been making things with really tiny seams in them, like my Studio Seren teddy bears, and also when you're making patchwork and things like that, you end up with really tiny seams sometimes, and it's really hard sometimes to get the iron into those seams and press them really nicely. So a lot of the time I was finger pressing things, and then I came across this roll and press roller. It's possible that a lot of you already know that this exists, but this was new to me, so I decided to put it on my Christmas list. I've left it in the box so that you can see what it's like at the moment, but the idea is that you use this little roller to just roll over your seams and press them out, and it's much easier than finger pressing all the time. Then another present that I got, which I haven't even properly got out of the box yet, is this steamer. This is a handheld steamer. I had this on my Christmas list, a very exciting present, I'm sure you'll agree. So I thought this would be great, not only for steaming my handmade dresses and things, which get very creased up in my wardrobe, but also I've seen on Instagram and on YouTube lots of people using these handheld steamers to block knitting. So maybe not necessarily like a whole sweater or a whole garment or something, but if you're crocheting things like granny squares, or for my hand warmers, which are quite small, you can use these handheld steamers to just steam out your knitting rather than needing to soak block everything. And I thought that was brilliant, and I thought I probably needed one of these anyway. It would be great to take away on holiday. If you're taking dresses and they get creased in the case or whatever, this will be really handy for that. But what I mainly want it for is actually steaming knitting. So I'm going to have a go at steaming my hats and my hand warmers that I've just shown you with this. I will test it, don't worry, on a tension square first, and just make sure that it's suitable for the yarn and everything. But I thought that that would be a really good project to try out this steamer on. So I will let you know how I get on with this, if it's interesting to anyone out there. I know lots of people recently have been asking me about knitting, blocking and things like that. It's all a bit of an experiment to me too. So I will try this out and I'll let you know how I get on with it. I also got 2 books for Christmas that I'll just quickly share with you now. So in the summertime I read The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton, and I shared that with you and said how much I really enjoyed it. So on my Christmas list this year were 2 other books by Jessie Burton. The Muse, which is this one, which I'm currently reading at the moment. I'm really loving. It took a little bit longer for me to actually get into this one than it did The Miniaturist. I felt like I was immediately immersed in The Miniaturist. It was just so sort of atmospheric and I really enjoyed the setting. It did take a little bit longer for me to get into this, but I'm around that far through now. Really need to get a better bookmark. And yeah, really loving it. Again, it's just really immersive. I love her writing. It's just really descriptive and really, yeah, immersive. You do feel as though you're there with the characters. So I'll let you know how I get on with that one. If you have read this one, let me know if you enjoyed it. And then the other book, which actually wasn't on my list, but I'm really pleased that I got this anyway because I did want to read it, is The House of Fortune by Jessie Burton again. And this is actually the sequel to The Miniaturist. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one because I found that with The Miniaturist there were so many unanswered questions at the end of that book. So I'm really hoping that this book will actually answer some of those questions. So again, yeah, let me know if you've read this and what you thought of it. I haven't read this yet, so no spoilers, but I will let you know how I get on with it when I've finished that one as well. Really looking forward to reading this year. I have been loving reading lately, and it's something that I really want to prioritise because I think when I get busy, when we go back to normal and everything, it's something that tends to slip, but it is something that I really enjoy. It really relaxes me, and it's just another thing that helps with anxiety and the stresses of day-to-day life, I think. And then lastly, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I've been trying out a new hobby, which is bullet journaling. So this is something that I've been wanting to try for quite a while actually. I tend to watch bullet journal videos on YouTube and things like that because I find them so interesting and so nice and calming to watch. So it's something that I have wanted to try for a while. I love a good journal, I love a good planner, as you'll know. So the idea with bullet journaling really is that you just have a notebook of any form, but usually what's used is a dotted notebook so that you can follow the squares and make everything really neat and everything. What I love about the idea of bullet journaling is basically that you can put in whatever you want to put in basically. So I've been adding things like books that I want to read, books that I have read this year. I'm going to record my sewing makes in here because I mentioned in my last video that I'm not very good at actually recording everything I've made. So I've actually designed a little spread in my journal where I can record all of my sewing makes and all of my knitting makes as well. I'm not sure I'll get that whole page filled up with knitting makes, but you never know. So it's all a bit of an experiment to me really, and it's something that I've really had to put aside my perfectionist nature on because I know that I'm not the best drawer in the world. I like to doodle and I like to draw flowers actually. If I ever doodle anything I tend to be doodling flowers, but I know that I'm not that great at it, but it's just something else to try and to stop being so perfectionist about and just enjoy doing. So it's been really nice over Christmas. Me and my daughter have been doing this together actually, so we've actually just sat down at the table, got all the pens out and everything, and just done our planners together and made up our own spreads and things that we wanted to do. She's been drawing Pusheen characters in hers and I've been drawing flowers, and it's just been something nice that we can do together. And I find it so mindful actually, and I've realised now that it doesn't necessarily matter if I'm not very good at it, but it's just about the process and about enjoying it. So I've set up a January spread with a calendar in, a couple of goals and things I want to achieve, places where I can record habits and things like I mentioned at the beginning of the video again, like making sure I drink enough water, take my vitamins, do my exercise and things like that, habit trackers. You can put whatever you want in there really, but I've really been enjoying it. So that's my new hobby for this year. I'll let you know how I get on with that. So I think that's it for this video. That's everything I wanted to share and catch you up on. It was a bit random again, lots of different things included, so I hope it was okay. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. I'd love to know in the comments below if you're planning to start up any new hobbies this year, or if you have any goals or plans or anything for the new year. And as always, let me know what you're making in the comments as well. Don't forget, if you want to try out the Readly app, I will leave the link in the video description below so that you can pop over and sign up and claim your 2 months for free. You can cancel at any time, so it really is a good one to just give a go. Take care everyone, have a lovely day, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.